Hello everybody and welcome to another Rise of Kingdoms video. This is Dragothian here, and today we're going to do another Commander Mastery Series guide, and this one's going to be on Aethelflaed. Aethelflaed has been one of those commanders that everybody wants to know about because right about now, maybe a couple weeks prior, most of you that have had the right amount of coins, I was about to say Osiris League coins, that's not even close, most of you that have the coins, have had the coins available, are ready to max her. As you can see in front of you, I've got her 5554, and I've got her well underway to having that fifth one ready to go, which will then expertise her. I figured I'd go ahead and do the expertising on this video, so it's going to be a little bit of a special mastery guide just because you can see that too. But then also we're going to go into all the bells and whistles. We're going to go into the skills, we're going to go into the pairings, and we're going to go into the talents. And then also a little bit of a quick how to use, because Aethelflaed's one of those commanders that I think requires a little bit of explanation, because if you look at her skills, which we'll go through in a second, she can be used in a very specific way, or depending on which part of the game you're in, whether you're a newer player or whether you're an older player, she can be used in a couple different ways. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to go through the whole thing. Hopefully this guide's going to give you exactly what you need to go ahead and use her the best way that you can. So with that being said, let's go ahead and expertise her. I've had her sitting here for about a week and a half, or almost 2 weeks, I think, ready to expertise. Been wanting to do this video, but it's been an absolutely crazy schedule with the migration happening in the new kingdom that we're in, and then certainly work on the back end, which I'm basically doing this right before I start work. So I want to get this done and get this out to you guys. Everybody's been asking for it, so hopefully this will be what you're looking for. So first off, bam. This is the last skill for Aethelflaed, which will then unlock her expertise, which is this puppy right here, which will always be good to get expertise. Legendary commanders cannot complain at all about that. So now we've got an expertise Aethelflaed, guys. So Aethelflaed, again, let's do a quick summary of kind of who she is and what she is. So first off, she's the only legendary commander that you can use your expedition coins in the expedition shop to get right now. She replaced the mysterious sculpture that was there for months and months and months. Now that she's been maxed by, a lot of the players that have been sitting there waiting for that sculpture to unveil itself, hopefully in the future, near future, another commander will come out that will be just as effective and just as usable as Aethelflaed, because she does have a very unique purpose and one that is definitely used on the battlefield as well as on PvE. So that's kind of the rundown on how you can get her. She's in the expedition shop. You can only get her whenever you use those coins, and you can get 3 of them per day. You also get, assuming you do the expedition themselves, you can get boxes that give you Aethelflaed sculptures as well. You cannot use universal sculptures to max Aethelflaed. You have to use what's given to you and what is earned in the expedition shop and mode. So let's go through the skills. Arrow of Iron. Direct damage factor of 800. It's in a unique shaped fan. So usually you've got kind of a quarter fan, meaning it's got diagonal sides and then a fan goes out front, or you've got a circular fan like YSG where it goes all around him. Aethelflaed has a 180 degree fan, so it's literally a half circle, which is pretty neat and pretty unique. It does work that way. I've seen barbarians that I've used Aethelflaed to kill before that she grabbed from literally right beside her, where a Sun Tzu AoE or a Richard AoE or something like that does not hit that barbarian. So this is definitely a wider arc. It's a full half circle. So very, very useful there. The direct damage factor to me is a little low for a legendary commander. However, kind of taking into account how you can get this legendary, it's not expensive per se, as most legendaries are. So it's not the end of the world, but that's basically on par with an epic commander when it comes to the damage itself. However, the debuff is massive. So look at the debuff. Reduces their attack, defense, and health, so all 3 stats, by 30%. If you're looking at a T4 unit, you're looking at roughly 180, 190 in those stats, and then it's well over 200 if it's T5. So 30% of that just for the troops, and then you've also got the buffs that the commanders give those troops as well, in addition to all of your tech. So I mean, you can easily start to see that stack up 250, 300 health, defense, attack on a lot of these troop armies that you've got out there. 30% of that is huge. That's 100 points of those items. That's a big difference. I mean, just to give you something to use as perspective, equipment gives you 2%, which is usually, you know, a few points. So this taking away 30% for 2 seconds, which is not a whole lot of time, but if you can get some rage regeneration, which she does have the support talent tree, which is very good for rage regeneration, you can see this starting to ping off very frequently and have that debuff really start to go very quickly on the target that you're attacking. So very good first skill in the sense that she has a massive debuff. Again, the damage is so-so, but really you're using Aethelflaed. Again, this is one of her primary uses as a debuff. The debuff for the first skill is where it's at. Second skill, Thunderous Force. Counterattack damage against your troops is reduced, so that's very good. Again, very solid thing to have if you're hitting a rally. Counterattack is a big deal when you're hitting rallies, especially infantry rallies. That's a huge deal. So to have a reduction of damage from that piece on your second skill as a passive skill, especially considering that's active all the time, definitely very much worthwhile. When actively attacking, you also have a 10% chance to reduce the movement speed of the enemy cavalry by 50%, and the movement speed of other troops by 30%. So again, if you're hitting a rally and it's marching towards the target, and it's a cav army, you'll effectively cut the march speed in half, which is very significant, which would then allow multiple armies to swarm more effectively because they'd be hitting all their stuff. If it's not a cav army and it's an infantry or an archer or a mixed troop army, you'll still slow them by 30%, which is very significant as well, and again, allow the same effect. Now, open field, this skill, again, very helpful if you're attacking a full cav army because they can't run away from you if that's a thing. So if you have Aethelflaed as part of your, as part of a group of 5 armies that you use, this skill is very nice because you can effectively lock them up, especially if you have Cage of Thorns spec'd out on the support tree or something like that, which you'll notice in the talent builds that I don't have, but you'll see why as well. But otherwise, again, this is very good for crowd control and also reducing damage from the counterattack damage that you will be receiving in any mode that you play in, whether it's PvE, PvP, Arc, KVK, open field. Counterattack damage is everywhere, so that's a good skill. Third skill, Synergy. All troops under your command gain 35%. So this is the peacekeeping skill that you get with having a peacekeeping commander. Almost every single one has a peacekeeping skill if you're a peacekeeping commander. So this is the one for Aethelflaed. You get a 35% bonus attack, not damage, bonus attack against barbarians and other neutral units, and all commanders get 35% extra XP. So more damage against barbarians, including forts, including Kerouac, including anything PvE related. And then you also get a 35% XP bonus, which again is very helpful for when you are trying to level up your commanders, which is very important. You want to get as many maxed out commanders, whether they're epic, legendary, what have you, as possible. You want to get your gathering commanders leveled up to level 37 so they can get all the maximum gathering talents. There's lots of use for this third skill, PvE related. This is definitely the exact opposite of a PvP skill. This does nothing for you in PvP unless there's some kind of PvP boss situation where you're fighting in the Lost Kingdom and you're at a circle and you need to kill a guardian really quick so that they don't attack you while you're attacking your opponent. I mean, that could come into play maybe, but that's certainly a very unlikely scenario, and even if it is, it's a guardian. It's not going to be the end of the world. Fourth skill, Fortress of Mercia. So when this commander leads a rally attack, and this is a really interesting skill, when this commander leads a rally attack, all armies joining the rally have a 10% higher troop limit. When this commander is leading at least 3 different troop types, their damage is increased by 20% as well. So I haven't done any testing on this. Again, one, because I just maxed the skill on the video today, but two, I just haven't gotten around to it. But I'm curious to see if it works the way that I think it does. So first off, if you have a rally that you start that has Aethelflaed, this skill should trigger. If you're joining that rally, instead of having, let's just, for even numbers sake, right, let's just give a 300,000 troop capacity army is joining this rally. Based off of what the skill says, it says you have a 10% higher troop limit. That means that effectively you should be able to join it with 330,000 troops. So effectively upping your troop army limit. Instead of it being 300,000, it would be 330,000. My question is, once you've joined that rally, can you then cancel joining the rally? And now you have, in the open field, a 330,000 Genghis double C group, for instance. Because right now, the maximum you can get a Genghis double C army is 310,000 with VIP 15. And a maxed out everything, maxed out castle and all that stuff, maxed out city. So if that's the case, this is effectively one of the best skills in the game. I don't know if that's the way it works. I'm going to try it out and test it and see if that's how it works. But if that works the way it does, there should always be an Aethelflaed-led rally running. So you would run an 8-hour rally, and then before you join the battlefield, you'll join the rally first with your presets, get the maximum amount of troops that you possibly can, and then cancel joining the rally. Just basically stop joining the rally, move your army somewhere else. And you would then effectively have 30% or 10% more troops in your army to use on the battlefield. That's a game changer if that's the way it works. Also, it says when this commander is leading at least 3 different troop types, which you would want to start that rally with infantry, archers, and cav, their damage is increased by 20%. Is the rally's damage increased by 20%? Or is the army's joining damage increased by 20%? That's another thing I would want to test. Because again, if both of these things work the way I just described, this is quite literally the best skill in the game, hands down, bar none. So not only would you be able to have 10% more troops in your army, but it would be an all over 20% damage increase. Could you imagine, just open field if nothing bad were happening, right? a maxed out Edward with a maxed out YSG army with 340, basically 331,000 troops in the army with 20% increased damage, in addition to the damage increases from Edward and from YSG. Could you imagine the devastation that you could rain on an infantry army or a cav army or another archer army? Whew, that would be substantial. So I want to do some testing on this, but I wanted to throw that out there because that could definitely be a thing. And if it is, again, this makes Aethelflaed a must-have commander if that's the way it works. Aethelflaed really is a must-have anyway, one, because you don't have to necessarily skimp on another commander to make her expertise. So always be pumping sculptures into her so she can be maxed out. But this skill is hands down one of the best ones in the game if it works that way. Otherwise, if it's just for the rally, that's still a very good skill. But you're talking about sending a mixed troop rally, which you guys know how I feel about that, especially in the late game. In the early game, that's a very, very good skill because you're going to be using mixed troops almost all the time anyway. So if you're on a newer server or if you're new to the game and you want to be able to rally, this would be a good way to do it. Okay, and then the expertise, deal an additional 20% damage to enemies who have been slowed. Again, we've already kind of gone through the fact that you're slowing targets like crazy. Again, in conjunction with other armies that have slow, like Richard, like, there's tons of them out there. Anybody with a support tree that's got Cage of Thorns, there's just tons of slows in the game. There's really no reason why, if you have a target that you got all your armies on, that they will ever be unslowed. So definitely that 20% damage would work almost all the time, if not all the time. So definitely worthwhile. I would definitely go with that as part of a large 5-group army, which I do. My infantry group has Aethelflaed as a big part of what I'm trying to do there. So let's go into the talent builds, okay? And I'll start with the peacekeeping talent build because that's the PvE piece, and I'll just kind of go ahead and get it out of the way. Really, so I went full peacekeeping here. You know, when it comes to PvE, you don't really need to spec for survivability because the nukes generally from PvE content are very small. Unless you're fighting the Crusader Fortress or a Circle, which you shouldn't be using Aethelflaed in this scenario anyway, you won't need to really spec for defense. So general purpose PvE, killing barbs, killing forts, things like that, this is the one to go with. It gives you maximum attack, it gives you maximum damage against barbarians, it gives you maximum XP, it gives you maximum loot whenever you're killing barbarians. And then it also reduces the most action points used per turn. So this gives you all the PvE stuff that you're going to want in spades. It also gives you a little bit of a heal afterwards as well, which is very nice. And then on the support tree, I've gotten you all the way over to Rejuvenate on the right side, which massively regenerates all of your rage as quickly as possible, which is also very good. And then again, I went over and grabbed some more rage regeneration on the leadership tree, as well as grabbing fresh recruits on the left side on the red tree, which gives you 3% more troop capacity, which is very nice. So more troops on the battlefield means you last longer on the battlefield, means you don't have to come back to your city to refresh your troops as often, which means that you're saving on action points whenever you're killing barbarians. Those are all really good things when you're talking about PvE. Killing barbarians, leveling up commanders, getting loot, getting gems. Those are all very good things with this commander in mind, with this talent build in mind. This is the Peacekeeper talent build for Aethelflaed. Let's move to open field. And this will also work for rallies, but there's one skill that I would change. Actually, I don't think I really would, because the name of the king, so the very, very top talent for the leadership talent tree in red is called Name of the King. It gives you increased attack by 5% if you max it out for rallied armies. That's nice. I don't know what I would give up. I wouldn't give up the increased healing effects received. Oh, and maybe I would. And reducing the skill damage taken. The skill damage taken is nice too. That's 9%. Maybe I would take 3 out of the healing effects, which is the elixir talent, and then the 1 point out of the defense tree there, and maybe the 1 point of march speed as well from peacekeeping, and max out Name of the King if you're doing rallies. So that would be the bottom portion of the blue talent tree. I would remove elixir. I would remove the defense of all troops, the one out of the two button there, and I'd also remove the one talent I've put in peacekeeping and slam that in the Name of the King. That being said, everything else is going to be the same. So the leadership talent tree gives you a few things. There's some survivability in here. There's some rage regeneration. There's some army expansion in here. And then if you're a mixed troop army, which with Aethelflaed you should be, you need to get armed and armored to the teeth, which are the two talents that are on the left and right side of the red tree. So with that being said, this leadership talent tree gives you healing effects received bonuses with healing herbs. Fresh recruits we already went through, gives you extra army expansion capability, which is good for open field. The more troops you have, the more damage you're going to do, the more survivable you're going to be, and ultimately when you have more troops than your opponent, you tend to win. Armed and armored to the teeth, again, one on each side there, both give damage dealt and damage reduction to mixed troop style armies, but you have to have 3 or more types of troops. If you don't, those 2 talents do not apply. Also, strategic prowess, one of the best skills, or one of the best talents in the leadership talent tree, is after using a skill, increases troop defense by 20%, which is huge, for the next 2 seconds. And again, with how fast you're going to be firing talents, skills off in this with this type of commander, you should be having that up a very, very big part of your time. Also, close formation on the other side, so the top 2 red dots, those are both very, very good. The one on the right is strategic prowess. The one on the left is close formation. When the army led by this commander has been reduced by half, increases attack by 12%, which is also very, very good. Again, keep in mind that these stats are only for, Well, those two stats work for every type of army, but in conjunction with armed and armored to the teeth, work really, really well together. They synergize very well, in addition to the extra troops, in addition to the extra healing. All very, very good stuff. And then you've also got some normal attack and then Hidden Wrath in the middle there with some extra rage regen when your troops are attacked. So you get tons of rage regen and also a little bit of march speed as well with hasty departure on the support talent tree, and then tons of different stats and bonuses and things associated with mixed troop armies in the leadership talent tree. This is the best build to have for your mixed troop army with Aethelflaed leading on the battlefield. Let's jump into the pairings. Now, go ahead and bring that up. On the PvE side, I basically, anytime I have a peacekeeping commander, I always say whatever commander you want to level up. That's just the basic and simple of it. So you want to have Aethelflaed primary, so you can have the peacekeeping talent tree XP bonus, as well as the XP bonus skill, third skill that she has. Those all stack and apply to both commanders to give extra XP whenever you kill something. For rallies, I would say you would want to pair her up with another peacekeeper like a Minna or a Double C. Belisarius would work here too if you absolutely had to, but you're not having a whole lot of skill damage at that point. You need to make up for her lower damage nuke with a higher damage one. So you're going to want to bring in a Freddy or a Minna or a Double C. Those are going to be your gold standard to pair up with her if you're doing forts, like rallying forts. That's what I would recommend. But let's jump over to the PvP tree. I think that's why most people are here for the talent trees and the pairings for PvP for Aethelflaed. So let's go through it. The reason I put Hannibal number 1, just simply because I'm not sure why I didn't put Hannibal Barca on one line there. I apologize. He's another debuffer, and no real direct damage factor to speak of. He does have a nuke, but it's very, very small. It can start to stack up, and if you're in a rally, it can be a little larger than you might think. But for the most part, you're pairing up Aethelflaed with Hannibal to have basically a constant stream of debuffs. So if you have Aethelflaed primary, Hannibal secondary, you can effectively have 7 seconds of debuff. And again, you will recharge your debuffs faster than 7 seconds. So with that in mind, you will constantly have very, very solid debuffs on one target all the time, which is why a lot of folks pair up Aethelflaed with Hannibal, because it's a nice debuff army to have. The problem is the damage is really not there. You're really relying on troop damage for the most part at this point. Again, Aethelflaed having an 800 damage factor primary nuke, and then Hannibal, I think his is like 400 or 450, something in that neighborhood. So you're almost combined to the point of having one Minamoto nuke or almost one YSG nuke or something like that. So not a whole lot of nuke damage there, but it does add up. And then in combination with having the expansion from another leadership commander like a Frederick or like a Julius or a Scipio, or in this case Hannibal, that would work really well because you're going to start expanding your army more and more. You saw the talent build before where we had fresh recruits as well. So it's all starting to stack up. You're going to have a very large army that will last a long time on the battlefield. It's got good defense with strategic prowess, a lot of defense type talents in there as well. Also the skills. There's a few skills in there. The counterattack damage reduction, the slow speed, where you can kind of pop in and out if you need to. You can attack the armies, slow them, and either you're going to beat them and they can't get away from you, or you're not going to beat them and you might be able to run away. Maybe, depending. I think you at least run away for a little bit. If it's a cav army, they're going to eventually catch up to you once that slow wears off, but you can just re-slow them and do it again. I mean, you can basically kite them if you want to think about it like that. But Hannibal Barca is one of the best pairings because of all the debuffing that you can do. I also like Alex as well, because he does a very nice debuff as well. He also buffs everybody around you on your team. So again, if you want to go a little bit more of a hybrid buff debuff type situation, Alex is great. He also helps make up for some of the lost damage that Aethelflaed has with her primary nuke. So Alex has a 1700 damage factor nuke that procs 10%, and it does tend to go off fairly frequently. So I would say Alexander's a good pairing with her as well. Constantine, same thing. Very nice debuff at the very beginning, and a lot of buffs as well that can help you out and your team. That's another good pairing because that primary skill there works out really well, and he has that massive heal on the 4th skill that can help keep this army alive longer, which means that the debuffs and buffs are going to be happening longer as well, which is very, very good. Joan of Arc, same thing. Huge buff for your armies in the battlefield, not just yours, but everybody in your alliance, so very, very helpful. Again, having Joan as primary or secondary, I personally don't care either way, but I know that a lot of people swear by having Aethelflaed primary just so you can have that debuff rolling as quickly as possible, and it works really well because the debuff is 2 seconds, and it usually takes about 2 seconds for the 2nd skill to fire off on your 2nd commander, so that works really well. I would definitely do Aethelflaed primary if you can get away with it, but Joan of Arc primary will still work just fine. You'll be buffing everybody around you, including yourself, and then you'll have a debuff inside of it as well for the target that you're hitting. So either way works fine. But same premise. There's tons of buffs there. There's attack buffs. Just all the stuff works really, really well with Joan of Arc on the battlefield, having a buff-debuff army in open field. Yulji I like really well as well because, again, he has a very nice debuff. I would have Yulji second in this situation, again, because his primary debuff lasts 2 seconds, or 1 second even. It's really short. But again, same premise, but Yulji does some good damage. He also can proc his 4th skill, which does 100% troop attack damage with the extra troops that Aethelflaed will be able to bring to the battlefield. That's very, very helpful. Belisarius, again, debuff, helps with movement, which is very nice. He has a few movement skills that would be beneficial to Aethelflaed. But again, mainly for the debuff and for the departure stuff where you disengage an army, you get a troop march speed bonus. That's very helpful to basically get in and out, debuff, and run out. I'm not sure how effective that would be, but it's doable. Double C, again, to help with the damage ability of this army. If you want to have more of a debuff damage type of setup, you can certainly do that. And then again, with Double C's rage regeneration, also helps very well, and heal. It helps keep Aethelflaed firing off that debuff effectively and keeping the army alive so you can continue to fire off that debuff effectively. Elcid, same thing with the march speed, and also you do get a bonus damage whenever you get below 50%, which is very helpful. Saladin, to help be a little more tanky, again, reducing the damage of things hitting you, and then also debuffing the target with the healing effects received bonuses, as well as the skill damage reductions as well. So that all works really well in your favor. And then finally, Sundiak. So she actually works really well too. Let's actually go into her because I want to make sure I get this one right because I haven't used her very often. She has a rage reduction, which is very, very nice. And then, yeah, it's basically the rage reduction. So when you hit a target, it's a nice nuke from Sundiak, 1400. And then also you have 100 rage reduction on your target as well, which is very effective against rallies as well as open field. Not the best fit, but it does work, and that's why she's at the bottom instead of at the top. But it's still a pairing that would work just fine. I think overall, though, the most likely pairings are going to be Hannibal, Alex, Constantine, Joan, maybe Double C. I think that's definitely a pairing that could work as well because of the heal, the rage regen, and the damage that Double C does. Also, to summarize, so this is literally the only commander that you can get completely free to play. You have to do the expedition to get her, but it's all done through coins. You can't buy her. You cannot buy Aethelflaed. Now you can buy the troops that help you kill the expedition that helps you get Aethelflaed, but you cannot buy directly this commander. So everybody has a fair shot of getting Aethelflaed maxed out. It takes roughly 2 to 3 months of getting her sculptures consistently every day to max her out, skill-wise. Then, of course, you have to put XP tomes in to level her up, or, of course, just use her on the open field, killing barbarians or things like that, and you'll get XP as well. Works for both PvE and PvP roles. We just went through both of those scenarios very, very thoroughly, I think. It gives you an idea of what she's used for PvE, which is mostly leveling up commanders, AoE, leveling and AoE barb killing, this is definitely a commander that you can pair up with a YSG or a Aloha or something like that, or whatever you want to do to get the barbarians down. And again, certainly if you want to level up a commander behind it, this is a good way to do it. When you're AoE killing barbarians, you can get more value for your action points used. But PvP wise, she does really, really good with debuffing any kind of army, let alone a rally. But this is basically a must-have inside of Ark of Osiris, inside of KVK. Certainly, if you have a group of 5 armies that you've really kind of set up for either full infantry, full archers, full cav, full nuke, whatever your role is, this role of PvP debuffer works in all of them. So Aethelflaed's a must-have on the battlefield, bar none. It's just a matter of how you want to use her. Do you want to use her in the open field, or do you want to use her as a counter rally situation? Do you want to use her in the open field as a rally debuffer? Those are all valid uses for Aethelflaed, and all 3 will work very, very well. And then finally, can max skills fairly quickly, because again, you don't have to necessarily purchase her or wait for a wheel or a Mightiest Governor event or gold keys to drop. And you physically cannot use universal sculptures to max Aethelflaed out. That being said, you get roughly 10 to 12-ish a day if you've maxed out the expedition. So that stuff stacks up between buying the 3 sculptures every day inside of the shop and then using the chests, the treasure of Aethelflaed chest or whatever they call it, to open up more gold heads for Aethelflaed, ranging anywhere between, I think you'll get anywhere between 6, 7 to 12, depending on your luck inside of the chests. And then finally, a downside, you can't use universal sculptures. So I just said that. If you wanted to max her in a week, you can't do it. That being said, this is the only one that you can max without having to use that stuff. So take advantage of that. It's fairly quick, 2 to 3 months. In this game is actually not that long at all. That's 1 break between Lost Kingdoms. That is... That's the difference if you're free to play, of going from brand new commander, brand new governor in the game to maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 million power, if that. So I mean, that's not very long in the grand scheme of things in Rise of Kingdoms. So with that being said, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. My workday is just about to get started, so I want to go ahead and get this ball rolling with that. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this guide. Again, this is a sponsored content creation channel for Rise of Kingdoms. So please, if you like to watch these types of guides and videos and helpful hints and tips and tricks, please subscribe. Hit the bell so you can get a notification whenever a new guide and new video pops up. And I will see y'all next time. Cheers. Have a good one. And take care.